Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Velen's Chosen. Greetings, Visionaries. We are going to talk full deck list explosion Boomsday episode 151 of Velen's Chosen. This is a show that's geared towards you guys out there that are wanting to be competitive, especially in standard, or maybe you want to do some arena. We'll cover that. This week is more about deck building and the newest expansion deck lists that have kind of just gone and erupted all over the meta, as well as things that have already faded. So we're going to be talking about a lot of this. And at the top of the show, just want to let you guys know that we had a little bit of an emergency for Eve's family this week. And she'd like to remain kind of mysterious on that for personal reasons. So just her thoughts and prayers and kind words would be much appreciated if you could send those her way. But she'll be missing this week. But thankfully, we actually were booking a fourth guest for the week, and we have Nicholas joining us. What's up, Nicholas?
Hi there.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And we also have Grant, per usual. What's up, Grant?
Yeah, just little old me.
And I'm Rob, and we're going to be breaking down the show. Now, we've got quite a bit to cover, but we're going to be doing what's kind of the panorama view of deck lists. And then we're going to kind of zoom down in a few of them. And one deck in particular, Nicholas has had a lot of success in the high legend ladder. He said he was at 80-81 with this
81.
deck list.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is a Zoo Warlock list, which, of course, you know I'm going to be happy about. And Grant and I are also going to be talking about a couple other things in the meta that are really, really interesting. So we've kind of set up the stream to be a little bit different this week. If you guys are wanting to watch it, it's going to be a little bit more viewer-friendly than normal because I've kind of set things up in Hearthstone this week. So we'll kind of just do this flyby. But before we do get into everything, let's get to know Nicholas a little bit. Nicholas, tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you to Hearthstone? And kind of what are kind of your favorite cards, favorite decks, just historically?
Okay. So I started playing Hearthstone just before GVG came out. I was a fan of World of Warcraft before that, and I like card games, so it's just kind of an easy jump in to me. It wasn't really my main game. It was just kind of something I played casually until Mean Streets of Gadgetzan came out. And at that point, I started taking the game a little bit more seriously. Started playing it quite a bit more. Started hitting Legend pretty much every month after that. What else? My favorite decks, historically, I don't have one. I have three.
Okay.
So the three would be Cthulhu Druid from Whispers of the Old Gods. That was so much fun. I miss that deck. Control Paladin from Ungoro. Even before the Quest Rogue nerf, it was still a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I remember that deck.
Yeah. And then Big Druid from Knights of the Frozen Throne.
Yeah, that deck really took off. Grant, do you have any questions for Nicholas?
Yeah, man. Like when you said you started playing seriously around what did you say, Mead Streets?
Yeah.
I mean that's a long time to play Hearthstone from gadgets. What I'm trying to say, Goblins versus Gnomes, right?
Yeah.
Mead Streets. That's a long window of being, I guess you could say, a casual player. So when you hit Legend for the first time, had you been like really aspiring to do it? You just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna do it and just wake up one morning and just be good at Hearthstone, or like what kind of made you want to push for that?
So the first time I hit Legend, it was the month after Whispers hit. So it was a long time of me just kind of meddling around, not really getting to rank 5 and then doing other stuff. And then that month, I kind of made a schedule of like, this is how many games I'm going to play. This is how many ranks I'm going to climb each day. and I kind of just stuck with that. And I was super excited to hit Legend. Then the next month is kind of when I hit Legend with Cthulhu Druid. It was almost by accident. It was I wasn't really planning on it. But the deck just had a super high win rate, and then I hit Legend with like an hour or two left before the season reset.
I know exactly
Wow.
what that's like.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah,
incredible.
so it was kind of an accident, but it was just like I ended up going like 35 and 14 or 35 and 10 with the deck.
Oh
It was
my
like
word!
it's Cthulhu Druid, and I had an absurd win rate,
Mhm.
but it was like tier 4 at the time, so I don't know if people weren't expecting it or what. I was just one card off of the main list that was on like Tempo Storm at the time. I didn't play Ragnaros. I played an Ancient of War. So
Yeah.
Sometimes
don't
the
know.
Did you-
one
did you
card
not-
that
did you
has
not
that
have
tech
Ragnaros?
just goes nuts.
no, I had Ragnaros, and I tried it with Ragnaros the next month,
Oh.
but it didn't work as well. It was having the 5/10 taunt because there was a bunch of like shamans in that time period. So having the 5/10 taunt on top of the 4/6s, the twin amps, like having so many taunts getting in the way of them hitting my face made sure I could stall long enough to playing the Cthulhu deck,
Mhm.
playing the Cthulhu.
Man,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Win
and
rates,
then as
man.
far as Mean Streets went, it was kind of one of those wake up and realize you're good. It was something like the meta was super powerful and kind of disgusting. So it was
In the worst ways. Hence why they
In
there
the
are more
worst
cards
ways.
in that set than like anything.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty disgusting.
Ah,
But
yes.
from that, I was able to hit Legend a few times, and then I just kept playing more and more, and I got more and more consistent, and I haven't hit Miss Legend in over a year now. So
So have you
Okay,
been
so
Oh, go ahead, Greg.
oh, go ahead, Rob. I was gonna say, so I wonder this question a lot because I've hit Legend a few times, but I'm not a monthly player. Partly because it's like I just choose not to play sometimes, so that I
Mhm.
keep it straight up here. What is the most important lesson you learned in Hearthstone as a player that like you realize it was like the light went on and that was like the lesson you learned that like made you be way more consistent to where you can play at the high level that you're playing at now?
Mm.
stick with your deck. There is a good reason and a bad reason to change what deck you're playing, and I
Mm.
think a lot of people change for the wrong reason. Um, it can't be based off 1 or 2 days of bad play. It has to be the meta has shifted on you, and you've noticed it for the past few days. That is like, this is not working for me. I
Mhm.
need to change decks at this point, um, and change it to something that's actually working. Um, but a lot of people just go on like a 5-game lose streak, and then they just throw up their hands and say, "Screw this! I'm trying something else." And,
Right.
Yeah.
that's very normal. But being able to play more and more games with the same deck, even if you make 1 or 2 tech choices, that's kind of fine, but it has to, again, be for a reason. And the more you play with the deck, the more comfortable you get with it, the more you understand the mulligans, the more you understand the different matchups. And if you have like 200 games on a deck, you're guaranteed that your opponent doesn't have 200 games going against your specific deck. So
Right.
you have the advantage in that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because like for the longest time when I played Hearthstone, I hadn't really kind of like carried it over to one to like any other game. But now that I've been podcasting with like Overwatch and been playing Overwatch a lot, I really understand this whole mentality for like people getting behind like not enjoying the game because there's so many what they call one tricks in Overwatch, which means like people that they're like a one trick pony, they can only play one hero. And if that person on their team also happens to be a one trick for that hero, then one of them gets what they want and the other person is basically like crippling the entire roster because they can't play anything else. And so with Hearthstone, it's like playing one thing just super well or even just one type of thing of deck, like a tempo deck or a control deck or combo deck, right? They can do that really, really, really well, and you just play that. And it's okay. But like in a team-based game, it's a little bit more crippling. You have to kind of like flex your muscles and learn different things and play different stuff in order to support your team and support yourself to improve as a
Sure.
player. And again, you have that overlap with Hearthstone quite a bit. But when you're playing Hearthstone, you can really just like we said for years and years, you can play like there's going to be some form of control list or some form of like zoo heavy minion based aggro list in every meta. You just have to find it, and then you can just play the same thing always. That's why people have the things of like, oh, I'm an aggro player. Chalky back in the day when he used to be a pro is just like, oh, this guy's just gonna run 4 aggro decks. Like that's just what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. That's really good advice. Because I mean, would you say maybe notwithstanding the current metas like now, like what would you do? Like let's say you hadn't hit legend, because I know you said he had mentioned in pre-show that he'd hit legend on day 5 of the month, which was before the 7th when the set released.
Yeah.
On a meta like this or a month like this when the cards are released and you hadn't hit legend, would you just like pick a deck and grind it, or would you be more okay with just like toying around with stuff and experimenting stuff? Like where does your mind usually go on that?
I don't like to lose, so I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick something that's busted on day 1, and I'm just gonna grind the heck out of that. Normally aggro because people want to do fun combos, and I like beating those people. I'm
Yeah.
the worst.
I am
It's
kind
okay.
of in the same way because I was trying to find a zoo list and I started doing what you did because they're like, this deck is crazy, and then you're like, actually, this one without the heal list is better, and I was like, wow, this is nuts. And then I played a couple games like, this seems really strong. Why don't we have Sea Giants in this list? And you're like, oh my god, why don't we have Sea Giants in this list? We're playing it right now.
Yeah. This was like the list that I have right now is like the 5th iteration on Zoo in like 3 days that I worked on. So it's like,
Jeez.
I really wanted to play Zoo, and I didn't want to use the heal package, so I was just trying a whole bunch of different stuff, and this is what he settled on. So
All right. Well, I kind of
Cool.
screwed up because I wanted to lead you into that conversation normally, but we forgot to talk about Tavern Brawl. So let's do that real quick and we'll talk about Zoo. How's that?
okay, yeah.
Okay. So Tavern Brawl this week is real weird. It's called a New Year Bash with a giant ogre pinata. So the deck is kind of a co thing, or sorry, the Tavern Brawl is kind of like a co-op thing where you and your opponent are hitting a hero power. You're trying to keep your opponent alive, keep yourself alive, get to the point where the hero powers stack up enough so that you summon a pinata. Every time you hit the pinata, at least once per turn, it'll give you a reward if you hit it. It has like 85 health or something outrageous and 5 attack. It cannot be hit by any spells. And then they summon these little party crashers that you have to deal with, and they automatically hit you or your opponent's face, depending on what side of the board they're on. They have 5/7 after you summon the pinata. They're pretty nuts. The game mode's pretty fun, honestly. Anytime I don't have to build a deck, I'm happy. So I can just hit the button and get out. But this is actually pretty enjoyable. Did you guys do this? What did you think?
Yeah, I did it I did a couple times because I lost a couple times. The first time,
Oh,
like a dummy, I didn't read the instructions, and I'm like, I'm just gonna spike my opponent down, and I killed him. I figured out a way to kill my opponent because I just was like not paying attention. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was like at work, like half playing. I'm like, I'll just do the Tavern Brawl real quick. So then I scratched my head, felt kind of stupid, and then I looked at the instructions again, and I go, "Oh, it was one of those. Whoops, my bad." I'm sure my opponent was like, "What the heck, dude?"
I was doing the same thing at the beginning of the game, and I was like, "Oh crap, sorry, dude. I just dished out a lot of damage on you. I'm gonna stop now. I promise. I'm sorry."
After that, I played it and then I won, but I
man.
wasn't sure. I something confused me when I blew up the pinata. I dealt the final blow, and then the portrait of my opponent blew up, but I didn't. So I wondered.
Yeah.
I got the pack. Did my opponent get the pack? I mean, no skin off my nose, but I just wondered if
Sure.
you defeat the pinata, if both players get it or not.
Okay.
Chat, does anybody know?
Oh, I had my opponent deal the final blow, and I got my pack, so that worked for me.
Okay, so you're good.
Yeah. Nikolai, did you play this? Yeah.
One and done.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
I don't play Tavern Brawl very much unless it's for packs or like
Mhm.
clearing out my quests that I don't want to do on ladder. So this was just a one and done for me.
Are you ready to talk
Yeah.
about Zoo, guys? Let's do it.
Zoo?
Okay, so what we've done this week is I've decided to leave Hearthstone open, and I can just cycle through decks like this. So these are a bunch of decks that I have. We're not going to talk about all of them. We also have even more in the show notes right now. But we're going to talk about one list because we brought Nikolai on to talk about this for sure, and then we're going to kind of do a broad brushstroke over all of the decks, which is why we're starting with Warlock first instead of Druid for a change. So, Nikolai, take us away. Here's the deck list that I had last. If you've made any changes in this, you can feel free to let me know, and I can make them live on the show.
No, I haven't done any changes with it yet, but
Okay?
there's a few spots that are quite flexible. So if somebody doesn't want to run a Defender of Argus, for example, because they're not facing aggro, then they're free to change that up. But basically what happened is I really like playing Zoo. It's one of my favorite decks of all time, but I really didn't like the heal package. I don't think that even back when even back a month ago, I don't think that the payoff was exactly worth it, but there was just not a whole lot else going on. So it's like, what else are you going to put in it? But once the new set came out and we got cards like Doubling Imp and Soul Infusion, I just didn't find any space for the heal package. And like I said, I don't think it's a great payoff, so I just removed it. And I tried to find cards that worked well with Soul Infusion mostly. And so that's why I have the Argent Squires in there. The Glacial Shards are for rogues and other aggro decks, because freezing their face when they're trying to swing with a 2/2 dagger, it feels real good. Doubling Imp is obviously extremely powerful when you have Keleseth and Soul Infusion in your deck. And then the Sea Giants are the most recent additions, and lots of other aggro decks, so 0 mana 8/8 feels good, man.
The other thing that's in this deck that's not in the other things that when you finally cut the heal package, you actually have room for is Despicable Dreadlords. And these cards are MVP when you're playing against druids that are running stuff. Like, I don't know, the thing that is spreading plagues everywhere. So you run a Void Ripper and Despicable Dreadlord, and you can just destroy them.
Yeah, it's also amazing against Paladin, which there's quite a bit of up on the high legend ladder.
So let's talk about your 1-mana cards and how you build Zoo as a core, even if players are not familiar with this, because, you know, Zoo kind of comes in and out of the meta, and the most recent one that if people are newer to the Zoo build, they're saying, how in the world can you cut the healing package, because that was core for its success initially in the last meta.
Yeah, so the 1-mana cards, like I already mentioned, the Argent Squire, the Glacial Shard, Flame Imp, Kobold Librarian, Soulfire, Voidwalker, those are all pretty much in every single Zoo list you'll ever see right now, just because they're good minions and they're either good minions or they're good spells that just get you card advantage or board advantage. You know, a 1-mana 3/2 is pretty strong. What's even stronger is a turn 1 Soul Infusion Flame Imp. 1-mana 5/4. Do that against a druid and they'll probably concede pretty quickly.
That's 10 damage in 2 turns and by the third turn you've already got a board, and now I have to deal with everything.
Yeah, if they don't have naturalize, they just concede. So
yeah.
Tell me your favorite targets for Soul Infusion. Like you just mentioned Flame Imp, like, but what else other than like what is it? The Doubling Imp is also good.
Yeah, the Doubling Imp and the Chain Gangs are obviously pretty nice, but to be honest, getting it on anything that's a 1-drop, so like the Argent Squires or the Glacial Shards or the Voidwalk. The Voidwalkers are really
crazy,
because if you can go if you do like a turn 1 Flame Imp, turn 2 Soul Infusion on a Voidwalker, and then play the Voidwalker, they are not getting through to your Flame Imp for a very long time.
Ooh.
So
yeah.
let's talk about Soul Infusion and also like why people are. Okay, I'm trying to do too many things. Let's start with discarding, because people hate discarding cards, right? And when they play Zoo in general, they think they're like, well, I want to play 1 Soulfire, 1 Doomguard, and Leroy, even though it's more of an expensive list because I don't have to discard my stuff, you know? Well, this list has got 4 cards to discard, and in a standard deck list right now, we don't have anything that can benefit, at least in this deck, from discarding. So discarding is purely a liability. So, Nikolai, why don't we break down the value of discarding cards versus the power level of the card that you're using, right?
Yeah, I mean, so the most common time you're going to be discarding is when you're playing Doomguard. because it
Yes.
is a 5 mana 5/7 with charge. If you want to get board advantage against pretty much anything, playing that is very strong. So the fact that you discard 2 cards doesn't really matter too much. It's
Right.
probably going to be 1-drops or stuff that you weren't going to be able to play anyway. So it's not... Discarding isn't that big of a liability. It's just like a mind trick that people have because it feels bad when you discard,
Yeah.
a buffed up Serenite Chain Gang or something, or you discard the other Doomguard and a Soulfire. That obviously that sucks, but
Right.
that's like discarding another Doomguard with the first Doomguard is probably the only bad moment you get, or at least I get from this deck. Soulfire is kind of just, I need to deal with this thing on the board, and if it costs me a card, then it costs me a card. I can't really.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to get rid of it, then it's worth it. So, it's more of just a mental cost than like a hand, like a value cost, because you do have life tap, so you can just tap into more stuff, and you do have Soul Infusion. So if you have nothing in your hand, then you can just play that, and instantly you have a board now. So
Right.
but
I noticed that when I played against zoo players on the board, where I was just losing, was when it felt like they were really kind of getting rid of their hand in like appropriate places, and then I was like, oh, they're gonna run out of cards, but then they would live tap, and it's amazing how fast they can get their hand filled up.
Yeah.
Especially if they get the ball rolling and you're spending all your time trying to manage them.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
exactly. Like,
Solarium in that light then, because that's one of the
Yeah.
big key cards when you're picking it up in the mid game that can really turn a game around.
yeah. Oh my god, this card is so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 mana, draw 3. Who would have thunk? It's great, and you don't really get the downside of discarding them because you just play them anyway.
Right.
This isn't something that you really want to play until like at least turn 6, probably even later. So it's not something you ever want to keep in your opening hand because it's just going to sit there. But if you don't have any cards in hand and you draw this, suddenly you have a ton of cards in hand, and you can just make another giant board for them to deal with. And that's kind of the thing about Zoo. It's like, it's not the first wave or the second wave. It's just so many refills all the time. It's so hard to get through a Zoo player's threats because they just can keep getting more with their hero power.
Right.
So
and now the Solarium adds on to that, so it's even worse.
Right, exactly. So when I was playing this list, the Solarium, I was finding that there's games where I'm just like, this card ends up being a lot more flexible than it looks like. So for example, turn 5 or turn 6, especially if you have the coin and you haven't used it yet, which is, honestly, sometimes that's the bad move that you haven't used the coin by turn 5 as playing Zoo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the rare case that you don't, turn 6, like you're saying, is typically good because you could be just searching for lethal and maybe you haven't drawn any of your Doom Guards yet, or your Fungomancer, or you're looking for a Spellbreaker, and you just need this. You just drop it on 5, and then you can play a Doom Guard, discard the 2 cards you drew with Solarium, because guess what? You discard them anyways, and you can just play the Doom Guard basically with no drawback. So
yeah, the Solarium, even if you're just getting 1 card off, it is fine. Obviously, it's not ideal, but sometimes if you just need a Spellbreaker, you just got to do it and hope you hit it.
It's just a tracking that you get to, like, it basically, if you get 1 card off of Solarium, it's a legendary tracking for Warlock, and if you get more than that, that's why it's legendary. So,
exactly, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the epiphany of the Sea Giants and why they're good in this list, okay?
Why Sea Giants? Go.
There is a lot of other aggro decks and Druid up at High Legend, so a lot of times you get the Sea Giant out for next to no mana, if not no mana, period. So a 0 mana to 2 mana 8/8 is just extremely busted in getting board control. And then against Druid, they pretty much just have to hope they haven't used their Naturalize and they have one in hand or something, because they're not killing it. They can't kill it, pretty much.
And I think that it's stronger in your deck than the healing package just because you're really all in on this Soul Infusion thing, and you're really trying to get double doubling imps and chain gangs, getting the buff, or at least just on the board in the first place, and just getting that many pieces on the board is just crazy.
Yeah, you really want to get the board and buff it up with the Soul Infusion to try and make sure you don't lose it. And then once you don't lose it, they're playing from behind, and it's better to play the 8/8 from when you're ahead than from behind, because when it's behind, they can just ignore it and put up a taunt or something. So
Right.
So do you ever? What are there any cases where you ever keep a Sea Giant in your opening mulligan?
I don't think so. If I knew my opponent was Zoo, I'd probably might consider it, but there's too much like even Warlock and Control Warlock going around that it's just too risky to keep. If it was in a controlled setting where I knew my opponent was playing Zoo, I'd definitely consider it. It would also depend on my opening hand, but
This is one of those decks
Yeah.
where it's really weird in that you can win and lose games on the fact of knowing what your opponent has, even just like guessing right with like a druid deck list that you're running against and mulliganing properly. And then also like once you mulligan properly, sometimes it doesn't always pan out. Like you may not get the cards you're looking for.
Yeah.
But even though you do that, you can lose games in the mulligan. So you have to be really, really strong in that in this deck list. That's about, I would say it's probably a good 50-50 in some of the games. Like that you could probably win just from mulliganing properly.
the deck also has a new element of if you have two copies of the same card in your opening hand, which one you mulligan actually matters now because of Soul Infusion.
Soul Infusion,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So if you have a Serenite Chain Gang in the first and fourth spot, like when you have the coin, and you mulligan the one in the first spot,
You're playing
that's
wrong.
really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether or
Well,
not
didn't
you
we say on
hold
the
the
show-
Serenite could matter too. Because like if you
Yeah,
don't
didn't
have
we
the
say
Soul
on the
Infusion,
show-
you don't hold it.
I'm sorry, Rob. I keep interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
'cause
It's the
I'm
latency.
I'm a bad co-host. Didn't we say a couple weeks ago, like we thought that Soul Infusion would basically take the game to a different level of thought that we hadn't ever had to worry about before? Like what you have, what's in your mulligan, and how do you manage it, and how do you play things out in order, and that type of thing. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about that kind of stuff. Seems like the Warlock cards have kind of what's the demonic? What's the one that like subs out a demon?
Yeah,
That one
Demonic
does-
Project.
Demonic
Mhm.
Project, yeah, that does it too. It's pretty cool. Do you keep Soul Infusion in your opening mulligan always? Is that an always keep as long as you have one drops?
I think that at least one Soul Infusion you should be keeping against another board-centric deck. It means that you have the bigger minion, and against a like a control deck or like a druid deck, it means that they can't really deal with it that easily for a few turns. So you get a bunch of face damage in. So yeah, I generally lean towards keeping one. There was a game I posted in the Coin Concede video replay.
Okay.
I was against I think it was I don't know what deck it was because I just won on turn 5, but it was a
Jeez.
warlock that it was a warlock that had a Stonehill
I don't know
Defender.
what deck you're playing because you're bad.
I'm not gonna dignify. I'm just gonna cover your my hand when I play.
It was a warlock that
duct
had
tape the screen.
a Gnome Paratsu and a Stonehill Defender. So I'm assuming it was Control Warlock. I won on turn 5 because I had two Soul Infusions, and I didn't have a minion on turn 1. I didn't have a minion on turn 3. So I went turn 1 Soul Infusion onto Prince Kalaseth, played the Kalaseth. Then next turn was tap Soul Infusion on a Chain Gang that wasn't buffed, played the Chain Gang, and then he kind of just lost like next turn.
Brutal.
So brutal.
Okay,
Yeah,
now I have a
it
really
was-
detailed question for 1-mana cards. So when you're playing, let's say you get to the situation where you have 2 1-drops in your mulligan before you have to toss cards back. What are you looking to keep as your priority, and how does that matter when you're playing up against different decks? Because I've seen mulligan guards for Zoo in the past where they're just saying, if you get one of these 2 cards, then this is what you're looking for in every matchup. And I don't really agree with those statements. I feel like you really need to have a specific one drop that you want to drop as like almost like a priority list of like if you can get tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 against odd rogue, this is the list. And then if you're playing against even lock, then it's just like, okay, I want to flame imp every single time, right? Like something like that.
Yeah, flame imp is generally probably the best one that you can keep. But as far as specific matchups like Glacial Shard, you want to be keeping against other aggro decks or against Rogue, for example, because freezing their face, like I mentioned before, really freaking good. Especially if you can pair it with a Flame Imp on turn 1, and then you play turn 2 a Void Walker and something else. It makes it very hard for them to get through. Argent Squire is pretty good against Paladin because it goes 2 for 1, but Glacial Shard's not as good there because freezing a 1/1 doesn't accomplish very much. Cobalt Librarian is generally a pretty good keep regardless because just putting something on the board that draws you something else, it's pretty solid. And then Void Walker, again, against most board-centric decks, it's a pretty safe keep just because it can, against like a Odd Paladin, for example, it could go 3 for 1. It can also protect your Flame Imps and your Librarians and stuff like that. So yeah, against the more board-centric decks, Void Walker, Argent Squire are good. The Rogues, Glacial Shards, and then Flame Imp and Cobalt Librarian are pretty safe keeps all around. But if you don't have something to protect the Flame Imp, then yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
if you're running up against a Warlock and you see this card, Nether Soul Buster, and it's golden, and you happen to see a golden Crystallizer, like 2 copies of that, you're probably facing a golden Whizbang. It's not necessarily something that you're actually like, this guy is crazy.
really?
He built his own thing. But yeah, I ran up against somebody who had a golden hero. He was running those 2 cards against my zoo list. Really close game, by the way. But you know, when you can actually play both of your Doom Guards in against like a tempo or a aggro matchup, you're typically not losing. You can play both of the Doom Guards. So
my first variation of Zoo had the Crystallizer and the Buster, but after a few games, I subbed those out. So
now Crystallizer is really good in the heal list, though, I must say.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that too.
It's really interesting because I wanted to see if there would be more of a token druid thing. You know, because I wasn't quite sure where druid was going to go because they just got so many tools that can go pretty much anywhere. I mean, there's still lists out there running Mulch Munchers that are like nuts. And they're not bad. They're just completely different flavor. But I was thinking of like Crystallizer would just be an insane Spellstone activator. Because if you have a Spellstone and you just hero power once and get this, you get 2 charges off your Spellstone. It adds 6 armor.
No, you only get 1.
Well, what I mean is you do this card and a hero power for 3 mana, and that gets you 2.
No, but it doesn't
6,
carry
right?
over. It doesn't. It
Cards have
upgrades
to
once.
do the damage.
No, like so it takes 3 mana upgrade, 3 armor to upgrade the Spellstone, and you gain the 5, and that's it. It doesn't go towards the next upgrade.
Oh, right.
So like if you Ferocious Howl for like 8 armor or something, you'll still only upgrade it once.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Still, a 1 mana activator seems pretty nuts. You know, like just upgrading it for 1 mana is pretty good. All right, is there anything else with this deck that you wanted to ask Grant, or anything that you thought was important that we haven't covered yet, Nikolaius?
Oh, I want to know like what is the worst matchup for Zoo or this particular Zoo deck right now? Like when you're queue up on the ladder and you see this deck, you're like, oh no, what's the oh no hit emergency button deck?
Probably even Warlock. That deck.
Really?
Yeah. Hellfire is still very good. Defile is still very good at clearing boards. 4 mana 7/7 with taunts are still very good. And if they can get like a Mountain Giant and a Sun Fury on it, you know, plus they still have Doomsayers, so it's very easy for them to stall you out and keep clearing your board until you can't. really do anything. And then they also have 8/8s and 7/7s to punch you in your face, and because you're life tapping a lot, you die pretty quickly to that.
So on matchups like that, they tend to run Doomsayers. Do you keep your Void Ripper in your opening mulligan?
If I know that it's even Warlock, I might. It's tough because if they don't have the Doomsayer, then it's just a 3-mana 3/3, and that's not really what you want to be doing. But
Sure.
if they do have the Doomsayer and you don't have it, then you could just pretty much lose on the spot. So
Mhm.
if I knew that it was even Warlock, I tend to keep it. But yeah,
So
So
how does it fare against Druid in general? Like,
yeah, I
because
was gonna
Druid
ask
has
that.
taunt.
I don't really have too many issues with it. They have a hard time dealing with um, tall boards, and
Mm-hmm.
just their only wide board cleared is swipe. So if you can keep everything above 1 damage, you're still pretty safe. And then when they have spreading plague, it's not a huge issue. It's more of just a stall. And then if you have the Void Ripper plus Dreadlord, it's not even an issue. So
Mm.
I haven't had too many problems with Druid, but I know that it is very strong. So uh, yeah.
So I was gonna
Cool.
ask you for my last question was, when people look at this list, they're probably gonna be seeing all of these one-off copies and like, why don't we have any like 2-ofs of any of these? So
Mhm.
the cards that are kind of the newer editions, I would say, or the ones that are maybe the flex spots, would probably need to be identified as being where the Void Ripper is, the Argus, the Spellbreaker, the Fungalmancer, and of course the Sea Giants, because they kind of function around this. And then even if you don't want to run Despicable Dreadlords, I could even see that depending on the meta dependencies. But just because of
Yeah.
how popular Druid is, it's just and then going toe to toe against another mirror match, and you get the Dreadlord first, it kind of tends to be backbreaking. But these cards are
Mm.
pretty meta dependent. And Nikolai, if you wanted to talk any more about that, feel free.
Yeah, obviously Argus and the Dreadlords and the Sea Giant are a nod to the meta that I've been seeing up at High Legend, which is a lot of Paladin and Rogue and other zoo. So having those cards has been very helpful for me. But if you're seeing more of like the combo decks, the Shadow Walks, the Mechathoons, or whatever, then you could easily be subbing those out for something a bit you find a bit more impactful. So this isn't like a 100% you need to be playing this list. That's kind of the beauty of Zoo. You can have a lot of flex spots in this, and this is how I've decided to tech it.
Especially when things are random like they are now, you kind of just tech for everything and have like a little bit of tools, and hopefully you can get that deep because Zoo draws a bazillion cards. So
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as important to have 2-ofs in Zoo, but there is a bit of redundancy. Like the Defender of Argus and the Fungalmancer do similar things. The Spellbreaker and the Void Ripper can do similar things of getting through
Right.
big taunts with low attack, for example. So it's not like it's like completely one-off. It's just like the one-offs tend to have similar roles. It's just
yeah.
slightly different, and I like that flexibility.
Okay, let's kick it over to Grant. Grant, what did you want to talk about for the meta?
Well, thought it'd be cool to take like a short walk through the neighborhood of Boomsday, where we can look at all the houses and decks that have been built
Gosh, dang.
over the last week. I know. I saw that movie, Won't You Be My Neighbor, Mr. Rogers, this week for work. What was part of what we did for a work day. So, channeling that. Anyhow, so I just wanted to talk about like what we've been seeing, what we thought was cool, what was busted, maybe what we saw initially and then we never saw again because maybe it just wasn't good. I know for me, like I had been saying, that's like, yes, Warrior's got some awesome cards, and I'm excited to play Warrior. And so the first thing I did day one was like play a big giant recruit Warrior list from Fibonacci.
Me too.
I
Me
was
too.
running Dr. Boom and the Boom ship, and honestly, I think that deck is better than it used to be, but I'm not sure it's tier one yet. you know. Um, you said you played it, Rob? What was your experience with it?
Yes. I knew that it wasn't refined the second I played it, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely happened to be the only one that was out there right there. And so Fibbo actually modified it. So I have the list on the
Mm-hmm.
screen right here. This is a second iteration. I'm pretty sure he's cooking up his third one now. But I got a bunch of Twitter comments about like, why are you running Deathwing and Mechathune when
Mechathune.
bulldozers are just better, which having somebody tell you that your 2 legendaries can be replaced by a 9-mana 9/7 with Divine Shields that's a mech seemed kind of like lame. But like really sitting back down and like breaking down what bulldozers do in this deck, they're kind of right. But I also won a couple games with Mechathune, so I can kind of see one dozer, one Thune. But the difference is bulldozer in this list is a bit better if you have to drop it on its own because you can play it with Shield Slam.
And Dr. Boom gives it rush. So
And Dr. Boom gives mechs rush. So you can make sure that basically anything that is a mech that's a hard hitter is pretty much just better than any vanilla stat line because you're getting another keyword out of it for nothing.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. And then if you run Boomship even before you get it, before you get Dr. Boom out, Boomship gives them rush anyways, whether they're a mech or not. So from what this deck is, I will say that if you're playing this and you're not really like understanding how to really work it, traditionally I try to get 3 to 4 minions in my hand and then start going to drop them. It sounds really weird because you do a whole lot of nothing. And if you get the coin, you basically never use the coin unless you have to coin a brawl, which is a lot of times you can actually be surprised at how much armor you can get back in this deck. And then on top of that, you basically just need to wait till turn 6 or 5 with the coin to play Gather Your Party like as soon as possible. And then once that happens, you basically are trying to hold minions in your hand and then play Dead Man's Hand, and then you can start dropping them. Or wait till turn 9 and Boomship then out of your hand. You have to do a lot of setup with Blood Razor, I found, and Rotface has actually been the MVP of this deck for me.
Yeah.
Rotface has been just disgusting in this list. And Dr. Boom, if you're running up against another warrior, regardless of what kind they are, and you get Dr. Boom first, almost always I've won. Just from getting it out against another kind of warrior, and any kind of warrior, just getting this out first wins. And then if you run up against any kind of mirror match or any other, like if you're warrior v warrior and you're running this list and you're playing it properly, it's really hard to lose because your threats are just always bigger. And if you can get 3 of them back into your deck to recruit, you have more cards than your opponent. So you're winning in fatigue, you have better threats, and you have bigger stuff. Plus you're running 2 hero powers. Like you have your own hero power you can start with. You have Dr. Boom's hero power, and then if you want to, you can get a 4 damage burst that has a cleave effect from Grommash. And if you got nuts, maybe you happen to Dead Man's Hand one of those 2 options back into your deck, and that's pretty stupid.
Yeah, the deck's got a lot of value. It can get a big board out of nowhere. I like it. I'll be interested to see where it kind of ends up settling. Just real quick disclaimer for all our listeners: if you want deck codes, go to the website. They're in the show notes.
I will put them there, I promise.
Just because everybody's like, deck code, please. And it's like, look, we're going to talk about a lot of decks, not terribly specifically, but we'll have deck codes for you. So go to VelenChosen.com. All right,
Okay,
let's
next
move along.
one.
We talked to Zoo. Even Warlock is becoming more prevalent on the ladder right now, but I've actually played a bit of it. I watched our brother from another mother, Andrew is living, from the Happy Hearthstone, playing Daravis's Even Lock, and it seemed really darn good. I think he's up at rank 2 as of today.
Wow.
He's been crushing it. Yeah, Andrew's been doing awesome. But I asked him, hey, whose deck is it? He said Daravis's deck. And it's interesting because it runs some demonic projects to kind of deal with those pesky Mecha Cthulhu's. It also was running Sacrificial Pact, card of note. And I asked him, I said, why Sac Pact? Why that card? He says, oh, so when you know that their demon runs out, you know, that demon that you gave them comes out, you can just kill it and get some free health. In a mirror match, that card is stupid. Like I played against a control warlock, and he dropped his Void Daddy. He thought, haha, deal with this. I sack packed it, and then I played Mossy Horror and then just destroyed him. So
You know the best is just giving them the demonic project, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I have Draxus, I'm gonna win. And you're like, you're dead.
Nope. I was hoping that would happen, but I gave my opponent like a Doom Guard, and it was like, oh well, you can get your 5 damage. It's fine. I'll take that health right back. So it was a net 0, but that's cool, right?
It's also a Mechathune tech for late game.
Dude, I played a quest priest today. Priest completed the quest, I demonic projected and I got his Amara.
Oh
I
man.
was like, yes. And he had a mitt full of cards. But then I realized when he dropped Mecha Cthulhu that I actually wished I had got one of his combo pieces because I still could have won. I was ahead of. So I was like, oh, it was a combo deck. I didn't realize it. So I laughed. It was
Oh.
funny, when Mecha Cthulhu came out, like because I think what was it? Like he dropped Hemet like 2 turns later. I was thinking I was sitting pretty because I had him down to 11 health on a huge board, and it was like, no, you don't get to win now. So,
This deck is so
sad day.
cool. I'm gonna have to try
So,
this.
but yeah, even Warlock is a strong pick. Although even Warlock was a strong pick going
I'm
into
just
the
happy
meta.
Shadow
So
Flame is in a deck list again. Like that is like the most nostalgia that it gets. Like, ugh.
yeah. So I mean, I'm not seeing. I've seen some control lists of Warlock, but I'll be honest, they don't seem very strong right now, and I didn't play any to really talk about them at length. So I think we should move on to Shaman, or as our British friends like to say, Shaman.
Our boy Freshka's cooking up the goods this time. Freshka and Ike
Yeah.
have been on fire with making some really intriguing deck lists this expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, Shutterwalk decks that don't run half the cards that they've been running. You know what I
Like
mean?
Shutterwalk.
Like, yeah,
It's not in the
like
deck.
just yeah. Well, I've always kind of hoped for a good elemental shaman to come out. I think Freshka's making it work. He was up around 200 some odd legend today with it. So and it was only like a day or so ago that he was at like rank 2, rank 1 because he's on my friends list because he's a cool guy like that. Um, he let me be on
How to
his
be
friends
cool?
list. Really, is
Add
what it
Grant
is.
as a friend on BattleNet. That's how you become cool.
It was cool of you to be nice to me. That's what we're trying to say. It's kind of like, can I be on your friends list, please? I
Bruh.
want to be a cool kid too. So I would check that out. I think we have Freshka's death code right here. So
Yeah, I have it in the deck
I don't know
list.
how to play the list. I kind of want to pick his brain and say, hey, dude, how do you play this? What's the
Twitch.tv
inside
slash
scoop?
Freshka. He's been playing it a lot on his stream, so you can go check out his most recent VODs. They're up.
Yeah.
Um,
We got to get that guy back on the show sometime.
Yeah, we do. Let's talk real quick as kind of a side note about Giggling Inventor, or the card that Twitch chat calls
Yes.
Ellie Giggle card.
Ella Giggle.
Let's kick it over to Nikolaius. Nikolaius, why is this card insane?
Oh my god, it's so hard to get through. It's just so much stall. Like
Mhm.
any deck that just you don't want them to be hitting your face. Now they can't hit you in the face for a bunch of turns. Have to send a bunch of minions in divine shields plus taunts. Oh my god. So I've been seeing a lot of mossy horrors in a bunch of lists now because it's almost
Eat it.
exclusively for the giggling inventors.
Right.
Yeah,
So
oh my
the
god,
funny
it's
thing
so
is when you see
frustrating to get through.
insanely powerful cards, you also see insanely average tech cards just become mainstays that are epics. Mossy Horror is one of them.
Yeah.
And Spellbreaker isn't enough because it's
No,
only
it's not.
one. Mossy Horror gets
Yeah.
rid of 3 plus whatever you have. So
I would just like to say, and
Yikes.
I may have been amongst the chorus, but like as soon as Giggling Inventor came out, I'm like, oh, this thing is awesome. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
like
we
Call to
said it
Arms, except
too.
possibly better because you know what you're getting. So it probably was an easy call, but that was
Yeah.
one we did not whiff on because
Yep.
that happens in card reviews.
Also, this
I'll tell-
oh, go ahead, Grant. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll talk about why this card is good in Druid when we get there, but we're gonna get
Sure.
through some other stuff first. But
Okay, keep going.
anything else? Okay, cool. Just kind of rocking and firing through here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Let's see here. So we are down to Rogue. So Rogue is possibly one of the hardest classes to predict what the heck you're going to play against right now, because Rogue got some really cool tools for Death Rattle. There's like a Pogo Hopper Rogue, which is like the mech that every time you bring it back, you play it again, it gets a +2/+2 buff. Looks like a bunny rabbit. There's a miracle version out that runs like has the new Ella card, the 3/4 like Ella Spider card that basically anytime you shuffle a card into your deck, it adds an extra copy. There's the Death Rattle versions and variants, and like which is also related to Malagos Rogue. And then of course there's Odd Rogue with all the beat burst you down, which doesn't seem much different than it used to be. I played a fair amount of it, or against a fair amount of it.
I think it's one card different.
Which card is it? Do you know offhand?
The unstable element, Myra's unstable element.
Oh, right. Just to
They
get.
just they take out one of the 3 drops and put this in, and it's the exact same list.
Is this the odd one that we're talking? I'm trying to
Yeah.
find one of the deck lists. Here, let me see if I have the one from Beer Brick right here.
I was playing.
I'll pull
While
it
you're
up on the
finding that, Rob,
screen.
I was playing a Miracle of Rogue that Ridiculous Hat posted on Twitter today, and his comment was, "Feels like I brought a gun to a knife fight." And so I started playing it, and I can see why. Against board centric decks, it just has a lot of removal, and with preparation and stuff like that, you can do a lot if you know how to play Rogue. It's super fun, and it seems super strong right now. It's not that different from a Miracle Rogue deck that was existing before this
Oh,
Boomsday
I'm glad you brought
release,
this
but
up. I'm
what?
glad you brought this up. So another card that people have just recently found out, especially this Ogre list, this guy named Starfruit had put this up this morning before the show, or I can't say this evening when I live in Japan because no one understands. Basically, this guy's running Blood Knights.
Oh yeah, I thought about that. I
Giggling
wondered, like,
Inventors
why
and Blood Knights makes this a 9/9 for 3.
Oh god.
This is like the Sea Giant Epiphany, dude. This is the Sea Giant Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey,
Yeah,
there's divine
somebody-
shields. Let's eat them.
I don't. Was it Starfruit? Because I saw somebody else on Twitter saying, "Yeah, I don't understand where." Oh no, it was Kranich. I think
Kranich, yeah.
Kranich was like, "I don't know why anybody's not running, Blood Knights in their decks."
It's all
It's
the
just like a
APAC
deck against
people that
that.
are like, why are you guys not running these tech cards? Because like APAC and China are like known for just running a bazillion tech cards all the time, so they know all of them really well.
Yeah.
Even if they're bad in that given meta, and the America's players, so NA and South America players, typically just run, this is my game plan, I'm going to run you into the ground with this, and then I'll have like 1 or 2 tech cards against the best 2 decks, and that's it. Whereas Asia's like, we're going to run a really good package, and then 5 to 10 of our cards are going to be to disrupt. It's just a different mindset when they're doing deck building. They really want to deal with stuff. Whereas, this deck list has the tech cards are Blood Knight and Void Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. The only other thing is they're like, well, if you're not going to run Giggling Inventors on the off chance, I'm going to run my own, and then I'm going to make a 9/9. Build your own 9/9, So.
Do we want to talk about Priest now?
Sure. Nikolai, you want to talk about the APMs? Because both of us have done quite a bit of work on this.
Yeah. Give me a break. My throat's sore.
I'm
I'm out of breath.
All right, I'll kick it over to Nikolai. I have the deck list up now.
Yeah, the APM Priest, it's really hard to play. It just takes a lot of practice to get the combo to go off correctly. But basically, the combo is Radiant Elemental, Test Subject, Divine Spirit, Vivid Nightmare, Topsy Turvy, and then you play your boar and you keep going Divine Spirit, Vivid Nightmare, Topsy Turvy on your test subjects to get more and more Divine Spirit and Vivid Nightmares, and you keep doing that till you get a whole bunch of Divine Spirits, and you put them all on your board and you Topsy Turvy it, and you Vivid Nightmare them to get through taunts, and then you just hit them in the face with 256 or whatever damage.
Yep. That's right.
It's crazy.
Now, Nicholas,
God,
do you want to
insane.
talk about the APM the GitHub link that we have?
Yeah,
here?
I don't know who made it, but there is a link that
Put it in
basically
chat
is like
for
a
you guys.
Yeah, it's basically a simulator where you can just kind of mold your hand or set different random variables about how your hand's going to go with the different combo pieces, and from there you can, and your opponent has a certain amount of health and certain taunts that you can also set, and then it's just practicing the combo. So it's timing yourself on how fast you can do it and how consistently you can do it. And that's probably the best resource to practice because you don't always get the chance on ladder. So if you're interested in playing the APM Priest, then that's probably your best resource.
Did you ever think we'd have a day where we said in Hearthstone you have to practice playing a combo out? Like, because it has to do with like actual clicking and moving things at a certain rate of speed. Do you ever think that would ever happen?
No.
So I want to highlight this deck because I did a little bit of a stream on this list last night when everyone was sleeping with my good man Schwally in our Discord. But I came up with a really, really good like a 40-minute stream to kind of just like give you guys how to really run it. And we also figured out quite a bit of the scenarios that you just can't win and scenarios where you can win. And ways that I broke down when you're playing this combo and you're doing the deck list, you basically need to make sure that you have 6 cards in hand to start. So you need 1 Topsy, 1 Boar, 1 Test, 1 Nightmare, and 1 Divine Spirit, and 2 Elementals. In theory, you can do this with 1 Elemental, but it's way harder, and it's much more easy to just go at it immediately. So the difference is you need 10 mana. I think you need 9 or 10 mana to... No, you need 10 mana for the Radiant Elemental combo. If you only have 1. And if you have 2, you only need 8 mana. Okay? So if you're running this combo, the first thing you do is you run out both of your Elementals. And you check your hand. So you run out both Elementals and you check your hand. Do I have 2 Vivid Nightmares? If the answer is no, then you go ahead and run out your Test Subject and your Boar. And then you Divine Spirit, Vivid Nightmare to copy your Test Subject. Okay? And how you do the combo is you actually just start counting the cards you play, and that's how many you get back in your hand. The tricky part is you can only count Topsy-Turvy the first time because you will only ever get it back once because you're always killing the same minion. You're not killing the first one and the second one, if that makes sense. So the targeting only happens on the last one you make. Whereas when you're making a copy of Test Subject, it's doubling what you're doing because you're basically saying, I'm putting a Divine Spirit into it and I'm copying it. And then I'm killing the copy and I'm getting all those cards back.
Because when it copies everything you've done to it, right? That's
Yes.
what you're saying?
So then the next time you put Divine Spirit and Vivid Nightmare on it, the next copy you kill is going to give you your Topsy-Turvy back, and then it's going to give you another series of those cards. So basically, you play Radiant, Test Subject, Boar, and then you can start messing with your spells. That's how I do it. It's mentally easier to compartmentalize everything separately. Okay? So then you play, on your Test Subject, you play Divine Spirit. The ordering is important because you play all of your Divine Spirits first, then you copy it with Vivid. Vivid is the copy card. Divine Spirit's the buff. Okay? So you buff, copy, kill. Then you have 3 cards. Buff, copy, kill. 1, 2, 3. And then you do it again, but you can only add the next 2. So when I do it, on the stream, I count Divine Spirits 1, Vivid Nightmares 2, Topsy-Turvy's 3, Divine Spirits 4, Vivid Nightmares 5, Topsy-Turvy. You don't count it again, so you're at 5 cards. The other way you can do it is you basically know that by the time you copy your Test Subject and you're about to kill it, and the first Test Subject has 32 health, and you're only running 1 Divine Spirit, you have 8 cards. Okay?
You're making my head hurt.
It's really, really complex, but it makes so much more sense if you watch the stream. I'll try to put it up on YouTube. You guys can watch it later. I'll try to get a note in the show notes before everything. But basically, this card is super, super complex. And if you kind of understand a few of the things, basically, if your opponent has 6 taunts or a way to block 6 minions, you lose. You can't win unless they have 5 or less taunts.
Yeah, I did that to somebody the other day playing like a mech paladin. I had my board full of dudes, and then I dropped power up, and he couldn't get through them. Not to mention, like you could tell he was like mathing it out, trying to figure out if he could, and he just wasn't fast enough on the clicking. I don't know if he was playing on mobile or whatnot, but so
Yep,
this is not a deck for mobile players, by the way.
No. I will tell you this, that my record was 19 seconds to kill somebody without any taunts on board. I was able to do the thing in 19 seconds, and then with 1 or 2 taunts, I think I capped out at about 27, 26 seconds. That's as or 20, maybe it was 24. It was between 24 and 27. I could do the combo with 2 taunts. But then if the combo gets up to 4 or 5 taunts and you have to kill them, I think it takes me like 30 to 40. So
Interesting. I actually find it easier when there's taunts because it's just easier to dump the vivids onto the boars and just trade
There's-
like that, so you don't mess up your hand size.
There's also a trick to that too, because you can, like I said, if you go to 32 health on the test subject, that means you're always at 8. If you can dump your whole hand, that is, except for the combo pieces, you're always at 8 cards. And so if you need to dump the Vivids, you basically can dump your extra one that you're going to inevitably get. You can dump it on a Radiant, because if they have taunts, you can just dump it on a Radiant, or you can dump it on your boar first to kill the boar, and then you have a copy of it somewhere. So the taunts help you basically shore up a lot of the mistakes you'll make, because you can either kill them, or if you just need to dump one, you can just dump it on a Radiant and they don't have taunt. That's fine, because you only need to get one boar to huge. You don't have to get multiple boars to huge. You just get one if they don't have any taunts. And if they do have 1 or 2 taunts, you only need a space to copy one. You don't need the 2 extra spaces. And then sometimes if I have 2 topsy-turvies in hand, it's so much easier. Because you just like you can even like make all of the mistakes in the world and then burn your second topsy-turvy because you've drawn too many cards and you still have one in your hand. So you're like, whatever. And just get like I don't know how much damage. I think it was like 512 damage. That's what it was. Like at one point, I got 512 plus 2, 256. It's like 767 or 764. I had enough damage for 764 with like 30 seconds of APMs. It was a lot of fun.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't it?
Leave it to Priest to get like the plus 500 damage out.
All right, let's go back to something more manageable for people's brains. Let's talk about Mage.
Yeah. Mage. Well, you don't want to mention Strife Crow's Mecha Cthulhu.
Oh, we can talk about
like
that.
that?
I haven't pulled that up, so while you guys
It's
are doing
worth
that, I'll find
noting.
it. Okay.
So Strife Crow, well, let's put it this way. I believe it's Savitz and Strife Crow were kind of the ones to put out the one-turn kill Mecha Cthulhu lists. Savitz had a lot more stuff in it. I think did he have quest? Did he have the quest in it?
The
I can't
quest made
remember.
me so
Yeah,
angry
the
when I
quest.
played it, because I was like, the quest literally lost me the game twice when I was trying to play it, and I was like, this is such a liability. Like, this quest is so bad.
And it seemed cool, but I'm pretty sure only a player like Savitz is going to really, be consistent with that type of version, or any other high-level player for that matter. But then Strife Crow put out a version that basically runs Hemet, which I don't think Savitz's did.
No, his did.
And-
They both ran.
Oh, it
Hemet.
did?
Yeah.
Well, because Hemet's like the card that makes the deck work. Let's just put it that way. So if you don't have Hemet Jungle Hunter, don't bother to don't try to play this one because it doesn't work.
Right.
Because I noticed in some of the Twitter feeds, people like, do you have to have Hemet? And I just kind of like, I'm going to pretend I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to go play and decide for myself. So basically the deck is just cycle. It's just abusing Wild Pyromancers and Acolytes of Pain and your Clerics. Abuse that till you can get Hemet, survive, and then drop Hemet, and it burns all of your cards except for your Psychic Screams. What's the inventor?
Coffin
the
Crashers.
Coffin Crashers, the
Ticking?
Abominations, and what's the new
Reckless
epic
Experimenter.
Reckless Experimenter and Mechathune. And what you do is, if you survive to this point, is you first of all make sure you have no cards on deck. You play Reckless Inventor in this order, and then you play Coffin Crasher, and then you play both the Ticking Abominations. What'll happen is at the end of your turn, the Experimenter will kill all your death rattles, but it'll kill it in the order that you played it. So it'll kill the Coffin Crasher. The Coffin Crasher will pull the Mechathune out of your deck, and then the 2
Out of your
Abominations
hand.
will go off and seek. Out of your hand. I'm sorry. Thank you, Rob. Out
welcome.
of your hand, and then it will trigger the Abominations, and they'll blow up one at a time, one after the other, and it'll kill the Mechathune, and then blow your opponent's face up. And it is
You have
so
to play
satisfying.
Reckless Experimenter, Coffin Crasher,
Coffin Crasher.
and then the Tickings, and then you can do it. Otherwise, if the ordering is important, otherwise you lose.
And I put a little like in our Discord, I put a little like picture like sequence on how to do it,
Mhm.
and I just did them left to right. You don't have to put them actually left to right. It's just the ordering.
Yeah,
But
it
I
just
did.
makes
I
it
like
easy.
thinking left to right because that way, okay, I go Reckless Experimenter is far left, Coffin Crasher right next to on its right, and then just do it that way. And it's magnificent the first time you do it because you're just like,
It's
can't-
way better than killing somebody with just simply Mecha Cthulhu, because when you play Reckless Experimenter and then you end turn, Reckless Experimenter like kills the Coffin Crasher. Coffin Crasher just like rips the Cthulhu out of your hand, and then the Ticking Abominations like go ding 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 ding, and like Like you just have this whirlwind of fire, just goes like fire, fire, and then boom, 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 and explodes the hero power. It's just like
It's
fireworks
cacophony.
for days. It's the
I mean,
best.
if you want like a 10-second thing or like a 3-4 second animation that like epitomizes Boomsday and like what the lab must be like, this
Yes.
animation sequence is just it's what makes Hearthstone great, to be
This
honest.
is it. It's like when you're doing it, that's what your brain's telling you. Like, this is it. The world's ending. It's the best.
Yeah, and you know it's cool because if you haven't drawn your psychic screams, assuming you're still alive, you have your psychic screams in your deck still, but it's no big deal because okay, well, psychic scream, you can't do anything. Just sit back, maybe heal your face. Oh, I see you have another board. Psychic scream, you can't do anything again, and then you just play your combo, and it's it. It's pretty awesome like that.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Nikolai,
So
did you have fun with this deck at all?
I've only played a few games with it, and I was playing against the King's Vein Rogue, protecting Lore Walker Cho.
Oh no.
And then
Oh,
he played
no.
Doomerang, and I wasn't able to get rid of it.
oh no.
That's
So
Oh,
I've
no.
been seeing a lot of like the demonic projects and the now Lore Walker Cho to deal with the Mechathune stuff. So
Jeez.
Well, but you know what? It's cool that there are ways of dealing with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, just because you're running Mechathune, it doesn't mean you're going to win, even if you're a master player, because your opponent could just say, well, you know what? I'm just going to do this to you. Sorry. Because
Yeah.
you can't always do the combo when you think you should. Sometimes you have to like, oh, shoot, I got to get rid of this card. Or like, I was thinking, if a mage has a secret up like the explosive runes and you drop experimenter down, you lose because it'll kill it. It's only a 4/6, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's an easy tech. Just save that for when you think get to the end of the game and just put that down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to interact with this kind of combo than like Shutterwalk was, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
There's also
Yeah.
well, you know what? I'll wait until we get to Druid to say that. Let's keep going.
Sure. Keeping on and keeping going. We're down to Paladin. Now, Paladin, I mean, the good thing about Paladin is it's got some more interesting cards that do the same thing. You know what I mean? The bad thing is it's again, like I said, it's the same thing. Odd Paladin is still very strong, in my opinion. I think the addition of mechs just makes it a little more interesting. So you can kind of do mech synergies and all that kind of cool stuff. I've seen some control lists, but I beat them so handily that I didn't think much of them. And putting mech in Kangor's army, honestly, Kangor's army is way weaker than I thought it would be. Every now and again, I played about a dozen games with it this week, and just kind of camped down it for a while. And I always felt like it was kind of clunky in the hand, and when I played it, it just didn't seem like it always was really good. There was one time when I played it, it was awesome, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you seen much in Paladin that impressed you, or is it kind of, I don't know,
I
same
haven't
old,
even
same old?
touched Paladin yet, so I don't even know what deck list to start with, to be honest.
I've played a little bit of it, but I've mostly gone up against it, and it's pretty much all like the odd paladin that we were talking about, and it's
Mhm.
been pretty meh. I think my deck is just the zoo deck that I've been playing is just naturally good against it, so it hasn't really impressed me. But I've seen a lot of people playing it, so I guess there's something to it.
Hmm.
HS Replay had Zoo and Odd Paladin as the top two decks,
Yeah.
like in terms of like they're the best decks, and so did Hearthpone had it too. They had it rated as the
I'm trying to
top.
find the odd paladin list just so I have it for the stream. Do you have it handy here?
Shoot, I have the list.
I can grab this one from Inori.
I think I grabbed mine off of
Okay, I got one. We'll see
I
if this
grabbed mine
is
off HS Replay.
we'll see if
the
this is
top.
any good. All right, so this deck
look-
is running a copy of Shrink Ray.
Okay.
I don't know
Shrink Ray.
why. Just saying. They're running one copy of Shrink Ray and then double War Gear, single Corridor Creeper, double Vine Cleaver, and then 2 Blood Knights.
Huh.
You know, I think a Blood Knight's probably not that bad of an inclusion considering how the Giggling Inventor's everywhere. And if you remember, Eve teched those into her wild version when you have any kind of mechs with it, and she had a good amount of success with it. So see, she made rank 6 legend with it, so I figure it's probably
Yeah,
okay.
I was kind of
you
hoping
know?
that she would be here for this because I thought that she would be the one to talk about Paladin, so I didn't even bother playing it. And then she kind of had her emergency, unfortunately.
I think Paladin is good still. I think that if you love playing Paladin, I think you could take this deck to Legend. I think it's
Oh yeah,
got all the tools and the ability to be able to swarm the board over and over and over again is just such a good thing. So, and if you know how to play the deck, I ran it. I didn't tell you this, Rob, but I made rank 5 before the set dropped. I went 15-1 running Odd Paladin from rank 10. And
dang.
yeah, I went 15-1. So, and it felt almost easy just because Paladin is just good, especially if you get a good start and you just keep maintain board pressure and your opponent's not doing much to you, just can only put 1 or 2 minions out.
That's
It's
sweet.
a big deal. So let's move
That's
on.
sweet.
We are now on to the mage from Clay. Mage got some really cool stuff in this set. The 2 mages I've been seeing are like a tempo mage, a spell damage mage. Namely, they have the cards that give the spell damage.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we have those up?
Celestial
Yeah, we got it.
Emissary and Cosmic
What's the other one?
Anomaly.
Yeah, and it's amazing how +2 spell damage can really benefit those cards like Cinderstorm and arcane missiles and stuff like that. Um, it plays very similar to average tempo mage, but it seems like tempo mage plays a little greedier and not as secret centric as it has been. But when they drop the +2 spell damage and then they start hitting your face with cheap like random spells or like they clear your board, you're kind of like, dang, this feels bad. And if they have Alaneth out, then it just feels like they're gonna burn you down. It's just like you're on a clock. Seems
Shooting
pretty
Star is
strong, right?
insane.
Yeah, Shooting Star, especially with that +2, is shockingly good. I was like, whoa. We kind of talked that maybe we thought it'd be good, but when it happens to you and they're taking your stuff out, you're like, what? You're not supposed to be clearing my board. You're a tempo mage. You know what I mean? That and the other one is the big spell mage is kind of morphed into being sort of almost like a mid-rangey kind of mage where they have some more minions. Like I was playing Gara's list. I don't have it handy, Rob, but it was running like Serenite chain gangs, and it was running, of course, Giggling Inventor. And honestly, it it's cool because it gives you that mid game stall, so that if you don't draw the exact board clear you need, you can actually slow them down until you get to the board clear you need. And I really liked it I played a lot of it at the beginning of the month, like the first 2 days or so when the set dropped. I think it's got potential, and I think people who shout out to Starlax who likes playing this type of deck and is good at it.
Oh, I don't
I
have
think
Pocket Galaxy. Let me just craft that real quick so I have it for
Pocket
the deck.
Galaxy is an interesting card. If you have tempo, if you're in
I
control
don't
of
want
the
to craft it
tempo,
yet.
and you play that, and then everything is cheap. So your what's the 4 cost
Witchwood Piper?
the one that draws out your cheapest minion. It's the what is it?
Witchwood Piper.
Witchwood Piper. When a Witchwood Piper could pull out a 1 cost Lich King, that's pretty good. You know, it feels real good. And if you draw through your deck after playing that early, it just feels like you can't lose. You just feel so strong because 1-drop anything, big minions is just awesome. But it also feels slow. Like it feels real bad if you're behind and that's what you have to play. It's kind of a feast or famine card, but it's still cool. So I think Mage is. I think we have
This
yet to
deck looks
see the
fun.
best versions of the Mage stuff. So
Yeah.
it runs Keleseth, and if you get an early Keleseth out, that feels good. It does run less. It doesn't. It only has 1 Voodoo Doll. Yeah, the list I was playing had 1 Voodoo Doll, and it just had a little bit less board clear.
Yeah, it has 2 Meteors, 2 Flame Strikes, and and 2 Blizzards. So this one actually has a lot. This one has all of the board clears from Gara. 2
Yeah.
Dragon Spheres, 2 Giggling Inventors, 2 Blizzards, 2 Meteors, 2 Flame Strikes,
Well,
and
I guess it does.
Astromancer and Alana.
I wonder what version I was playing. Oh, it had 2 Gluttonous Oozes, and I think Gluttonous Ooze,
It
2
does
of
have
them.
2.
Maybe that was just like, I'm gonna tech against Twig. you know, you're
Just
not
run
gonna
Blood
burn
Knights.
me down with Malagos. What?
Just
Blood
swap them for
Knights,
Blood
yeah.
Knights, boys.
That's probably
Drop
what
a
I
9
actually.
mana card.
I would probably do that, and it works on your own guys too. So if you have parity, you just drop that, and it's like, well, I guess I win now.
You can see the gears turning in Nikolai's head. He's like, how can I play Zoo with these now?
I do have Argent Squires, so
Yeah,
but I don't have
That's
the
true.
Gateway Inventors, so
yeah,
it's not as good.
yeah, that's true.
All right, I guess we'll move on to Hunter. And feel free, guys, like cut me off, just because.
Well,
I'm
Nikolai's
trying
you
to.
played a lot of the Hunter. Why don't we have you talk about this one from Dog?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I only played a few games with it actually, but
Oh, okay.
it feels very strong, and it runs very similar to the Death Rattle Hunter of like a month ago. So it just has the spider bombs, it has like a new mech package. So it's the firework techs, the spider bombs, the Ziliacs, and the mechanical whelps, and it's pretty much the exact same list besides those things. So it's still very good against the same matchups. It's still struggles against the same things. So it's just a new version with the mech package, and it feels like it's a lot of fun to play. I know that Dog played it, gained like 400 ranks with it the other day, so he's at like top 100. He was at like 500 or something before, so obviously it's very good. Yeah, I still like the deck. I still like the Egg Hunter of a month ago, so if Zoo starts to falter on me, I might switch over to this.
Yeah, they have this one, and then there's also another one that people have been running, Boommaster Flark, and they're just calling it Bomb Hunter, I guess is kind of what they're just going with right now. So if I go to Twitter and just type Bomb Hunter in, you'll probably find like a bazillion decks. Like I have 3 right away. This one's from Orange, so I'll grab Orange's list and throw this on the
I like the bomb idea in Hunter. Like, there's a lot of cards that give you bombs. And at first I thought, well, I know it does face damage, but a 0/2, what can I do? And then I started playing and I realized, oh no, this is still bodies. And if you have things like Defender of Argus and things like that in the deck, they can start doing work for you or you can taunt them up, or anything that you can do to like buff a minion. It seems like it's almost there. Like it has potential to just be actually good.
It has Grant's favorite card, the Whirligliders, in it.
I like that card.
Yeah, you had high praise for that card when we were doing our final card review.
I noticed. This might be stating the obvious, but I've noticed there's a lot of cards that do what the original Dr. Boom card does. You drop the minion and 2 things go blip out the side. There's about 3 or 4 of them in the set, and I thought that's cool. They're kind of like copying the flavor
Giggling
and the mechanic and the visual.
Boommaster Flark.
There's the Explodinator. That card's surprisingly good. I didn't think it'd be as good as it is, because it gives you 3 bodies.
Yeah, so this list is a little different in that they have kind of gone all in on the mech packet. And then they have Void Rippers that are basically not tech. These are basically for your own game plan and happen to mutually benefit you a lot of the time. And then you have Houndmaster Shaw to kind of activate a bunch of other random things. I also ran into, I have no clue whose list it was, but it might have been an earlier build where they're running a lot of the eggs and like more of a top-end heavy like Death Rattle list before Dog played his. And it ran the bazooka. And apparently something that I didn't know was going to happened, where if you run the bazooka, here, let me just I don't have it crafted, so I'm just going to pull it up here. So it summons the 3 minions from your deck. They attack enemy minions and then die. Even if they have 0 attack, they will still attack.
Really?
Yeah, so like I had a Devil Star egg just pop out of this and attack one of my minions. Did nothing, but it died. And then on top of that, I also talked with some other folks, and the Boomzooka also means that when the minions come out of the thing and attack, the player doesn't get to choose who they attack. They choose an enemy minions at random. And then they die. So he got like Kathrena and a charged Devilsaur and a Devilsaur egg, and then they cleared like 2 of my huge minions, and then they summoned something with Kathrena, and then they got a 5/5 from the egg, and it was just crazy. And somebody told me, I was like, well, what kind of consistency is this? It's a 0/3 that can attack when no other things in Hearthstone allows you to attack with them. Even if you give it like charge or rush, it doesn't let you do it. But then they explained it as like, well, why not let it attack anyways? Because at the end of the turn, it's dead. So it does nothing. And then you know, it's gonna die anyways. I might as well just let this egg just like come, like fire out of the deck like a cannonball and hit something for nothing. You know, kind of makes sense flavor wise, but the consistency has kind of bugged me. But I bet you the coding would have been a nightmare to have 0 mana cards like not be able to attack after this. It probably just makes sense in the code.
Yeah, it still makes it fun though because that's that. What's gonna go wrong? Oh my gosh, how crazy! 0 mana minions being able to attack. What's
Dude,
going on?
It's like
It's
a
broken.
super patches is what the animation looks like. The cannon is gigantic. Just boom, and shoots all 3 of them out at the same time. It's awesome.
Oh, such fun. All right. Well, let's see here. Druid, last but not least.
Big bad boys of the expansion. All right,
Oh my
Nicholas,
gosh.
what you got to say about Druids?
Yeah, tell us about Druid.
Oh, it's so busted. It's so. I haven't played
Okay,
too
that's the
much
show, guys.
myself.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, yeah. Bye.
Great show,
I haven't-
everybody.
I haven't played too much Druid myself, just because I've been on the zoo train very much, and I've been like trying to avoid playing Druid, but I've played against it quite a bit. And yeah, Malagos, it's not, I don't think, as dominant as like the sky is falling, but it's definitely as strong as people thought it would be. They just put in Floop and the biology project and pretty much do the exact same thing, and now it's a lot more consistent. So it's not like you can. Before it's like I'm playing against Malagos Druid, I'll just put in my Gluttonous Ooze or whatever, and hey, they can't, deal 30 damage to me in a turn. And it's like, ha ha ha, now I can. So it's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also noticed that the Giggling Inventor. I went on a 6-game win streak with Malagos Druid yesterday, and Giggling Inventor buys you time, and that's what you need with that deck, right?
Yeah.
That's what Spreading Plague is there for, not because it's like your best thing ever to play, but because it just gives you time to draw your pieces and sometimes just survive or have one more charge on your twig. And it's like, dang it, I had a 1/3 twig, and I'm like, shoot, I need some more time. And top deck Giggling Inventor, oh, that's all I need. Got that, you know. And doing that on turn 5 and then like Spreading Plague on turn 6 it's incredible for Malagos Druid. And I think Malagos Druid is probably in the best place it's ever been. You know, it just seems way consistent, and to the point of where I was thinking to myself, man, I wish I had a golden Malagos, because shoot, they're gonna nerf that thing or put it in the Hall of Fame, because
I made mine on day 1.
I know you did.
I was like, okay,
You'll get
guys,
your investment back, Rob.
Oh yeah. And I already had a golden Alex from years and years ago, and then I have a Forbiddeness Floop I opened with my golden expansion, so I was like, I need to play this list. But I'm glad that we have Nikolaius on here, because there are so many good Druid decks that it's really hard to figure out how to play against them, even though a lot of them have kind of the same general first 5 to 6 turns. Until you start getting into turn 4, turn 5, and they are playing big Druid, then things start varying a little bit. But other than that, if they're not playing big, then Togwaggle, Malagos, and Mecha'thun all have basic shells that are pretty similar and have about, I don't know how many you would count, probably about 20 cards of the same, somewhere around there. Does that sound right?
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think Blister Guy made the point earlier this week that, like, the interesting thing about Druid is you can win with Malagos Druid having never done anything Malagos combo, because Druid cards are just good.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what has been illustrated to me probably more than anything else this week, is like Druid just has like the best package. Like they just have all the good stuff. And you can win. Like I won a couple games yesterday with a Malagos Druid because they didn't clear some of my tokens. It's like, oh, you know what? Branching paths, dead. You know what I mean? It's just that absurd. So I think Druid's in an awesome place. I think Togwaggle has the potential to be better than it's ever been with Psych Melon. You know?
I don't even think this deck list is running Psych Melon. Let me check. Nope, it's not even running.
You don't
Psych
need
Melon.
to. You don't need it.
You just
you
run
don't need
Twig.
Yeah, I mean, Twig is good, and honestly, I haven't seen too much weapon hate. Just really not. And if you do get weapon hate, well, that's what you have Floop for. Just make sure you just dump your Malagos early. Call it good.
So the idea of the deck is basically what? Playing Dream Petal Florist on Togwaggle?
or even Azalina.
Yeah.
Any of them, because it reduces them by 7.
Yeah.
It makes Azalina free or Togwaggle cost 1. And if you can do them both in the same term, that's the dream.
Oh, it's specifically a minion.
Yeah, it's a minion.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's why everybody was like wigging out when that card got dropped, and everybody thought
I
Druid would
did
just never
not.
lose.
I totally missed that when I was reading this
Yeah.
card. Wow, that card's nuts.
And that's part
Yeah.
of the strategy. And it's not hard to do, but it's part of the strategy that you really want to play that card when you have one or both of those particular cards in your hand. Because if you get it off on that card, who cares if it dies? Whatever, because you have your combo now.
So
Yeah.
I've been seeing some players in the community are saying that they don't need that card when, like, Strifeco in his list for Malygos, he doesn't even run it.
You don't need it in the Malagos list.
Yeah.
It's
you
just
don't,
for Togwaggle.
Just for
you don't
Togwaggle?
need it in Malagos. It's something that you can definitely include, but it's definitely not as important as Togwaggle, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
It makes
about
Togwaggle just that much more consistent.
Okay, so now we got to talk about the disparity between Mechathune and why people are kind of pushing this down as a deck that's not really as good at these as the other ones. And for starters, a lot of people were saying that Floop's Glorious Gloop was crazy, and then now that we've kind of had a few days, a lot of the pros have kind of tapered off and kind of just said this card's not it's objectively bad, or that it's just not good enough in a lot of these decks. And I'm still running it because I'm running Disguised Toast Mechathune list, but I was running it from 15 to 10 because I was trying to hit 10 before the expansion and just kept dipping. And I hit my rank 11 to 10 boss like 4 times, and I only snapped through it with this list because I ran up against Druid after Druid after Druid. And whatever they were doing with either Cthulhu, or maybe they were just doing something nutty with like with their Cthulhu list, or really weird things with Malygos list not being as refined.
Yeah.
But every time I went up against Druid, I won with this deck. And I can't tell you like anything other than like all we're doing is doing the same dumb dance of just like armoring, and then making sure that the Spreading Plague on the other end dies or doesn't get played. And then I get to the end of the game, and all I have to do is make sure my Auctioneers are dead. And for whatever reason, everyone below rank 5 just sees Auctioneer, even when you have 0 cards in deck, and they're like, I have to kill it. And they killed my Auctioneer when I have no cards left in my deck. Like, almost every game, I'm like, these guys don't understand how I win the game. So I was able to punish them. But I'm sure at higher levels, I can understand why this deck would be easier to counter, because you just leave the minions on the board, and it's really hard to kill them. But Pyromancer and Barkskin is gross. It is so gross. You just kill everything.
Oh yeah.
Like I basically play I was playing a deck where I drop Wild Pyro. I play Barkskin, and then you can play like Floop's Glorious Gloop, and then every time you kill something you're getting mana back. And then if you have 10 mana, you just run Wild Growth and you get 2 more charges out of it. And like there was turns where I played Wild Pyromancer into a double Barkskin turn, and I just killed everything. And it was the most glorious spinning death fire that I've ever made. But man, there's games where both of us had over. I had 130 health, and I killed my opponent with nothing on the board, nothing in my hand, and nothing in the deck, and it was fantastic.
Oh my god.
Fantastic.
And I'm like,
well,
so let's bring it back down. So why is it that people are not running this and they're running Malygos? Because in the mirror match, it seems like Malygos just doesn't do enough damage in my head. But if you guys want to do, or even Togwaggle seems too slow, because they're not inducing enough damage. You're killing their stuff. You're they have Mecha Cthulhu anyways, so they're just gonna beat you. So I'm thinking about that specific matchup and why Malygos and Togwaggle are just better, because they seem too slow and don't have that level of inevitability like Cthulhu does.
So you're asking why people are running Malygos and Togwaggle over a Mecha Cthulhu
Yeah.
deck? Jeez.
Talked a little bit about this in the pre-show, but it's not an easy answer.
Mechathune deck doesn't have Spreading Plague.
Toast deck has 1 copy.
Okay. Because what I've been seeing on HS Replay is no copies. So maybe that's should be changed, because not having Spreading Plague in this kind of meta is almost a death sentence, I think.
Yeah.
For Druid. I've honestly played against 0 Mechathune decks of any class. I don't think I'll have to see how it does against like the Paladins and the Zoos and the Oddrokes, because from what I can see, I don't think it has the same survivability. But
Mhm.
I could definitely be wrong about that. So also Biology Project seems very bad in the Druid Mirror, so that seems interesting.
It can be. I found it to be a card that I actually just don't use in the Druid Mirror. I hold it until I'm
Mhm.
like pretty close to like turn 7, turn 8. And then that's when I pop it with Gadgetzan because it just doesn't matter after turn 8 anymore.
Oh, this deck also doesn't run UI, which is another big thing for the meta.
Mm,
So
yeah.
So what's the UI thing, Nicholas? Talk to me.
so just when you're trying to play like a Malagos deck, being able to draw, or Togwaggle, drawing 5 cards, gaining 5 armor, 5/5, all that stuff. And then a lot of those decks can sometimes have like the Arcane Tyrants as well, so they can put out make a significant board from nothing, and then obviously draw close to their combo. And
Well, what's
because
the
it's true, they're not playing UI on turn 10.
right? So how much damage are they able to dish out with this Malagos deck? Because obviously you're doing 15 damage in the mirror with Alex, no matter how you cut it, right? Because you're just you're not going down that far. So how much damage can you do with Malagos?
Depends if you have the twig or not. Because if you have the twig,
Yeah.
it makes it insanely high. Because you can go
You
Malagos,
go plus 10.
break the twig, and then play the Floop. And then you can have swipe Moonfire.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that? That's 10.
14,
So
21.
11. So that's
22,
36
plus
damage.
20. Well, if you do doubles, well, you'd only do one swipe, right?
Yeah, you can only get one swipe off.
So it would be
So it'd be
9
14 plus 11 plus 11. So
Yeah, it's
36
36.
damage. So as long as you have their armor below like 20 and you've played Alex, which it's not too hard because you have the Spreading Plagues, you have the Arcane Tyrants, you have the Branching Paths.
You just keep chipping. Okay.
Yeah.
I can
Well,
see
and
that.
the thing about the Malagos deck that, like I had mentioned earlier, is you don't even need the combo to win half the time.
You
Because
just get a board.
oddly
and then
enough,
go.
you're able to get some kind of tempo out of Spreading Plague and Arcane Tyrants and stuff like that, to where you can. So you and
win with
like
Branching Paths?
Malfurion, you can win with Branching Paths sometimes if they can't clear your board.
Because I just don't know the alternative win conditions because I haven't played this deck very much even in the previous meta. So looking at the deck, I'm just like, okay, well, you have all these crazy things. You can do a Twig if you need to. You can set it up with Alex Malagos. But I didn't really consider how much chip damage you end up with
You do a lot of
Arcane
chip
Target
damage.
and UI because you actually can just get away with a lot, right?
And that's the secret to playing that deck is you start valuing any point of damage because you start thinking, all right, this is how my hand's shaping up. Do I want to trade face and just take some extra damage and ignore this minion, knowing that like in two turns from now, I'm just gonna blast them down, they're dead. You know what I mean? I mean, there's Malfurion the Pestilent is really important in this deck too, in terms of just being able to. Sometimes it gives you the survivability you need, but sometimes it just gives you that extra 3 damage that you need. So
and Druid isn't really ever afraid of their life total because of all the armor gain that they have. It's pretty insane. We've been talking. I know people have been talking about it for a while about how much Druid can gain more armor than Warrior now, and that's supposed to be the armor class. So it's like, between Branching Paths and Ferocious Howl and Malfurion, they can gain so much armor that they can afford to just say, I'm not going to kill your minion. I'm just going to go face for an extra point or two of damage because that's more important.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
right.
I think we covered all of the gamut, and we're pretty far along in the show. But we want to make sure we gave you at least a big mess of decks that you can go mess with and play, and stuff that we like, stuff that we're playing, and also be sure to give your kind words and love to Eve as we're missing our lore master this week. We're excited for next week because we're probably, if she's back, we're probably going to be diving into a few of the new cards with some lore, which I'm really excited about. Thanks again. Special thanks to our sponsor, which is Jamie S, aka Pseudoping, of Velen's Chosen. And if you guys want to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com patreon.com/Velen's Chosen, and you can find us there. You can give us a little bit of cash here and there. It helps us out with maintaining the show, improving our stuff, keeping the lights on, as we like to say over here for the website, and improving our pack opening odds just from getting kindness from you guys always is nice. Moving forward, I'm just going to go ahead. I have to apologize. I wasn't quite prepared for everything of all of this volume of stuff for the stream today, so we will get to all of the iTunes reviews next week, but we really appreciate them if you can send them our way. We do get global reviews, so I can get them for you. If you are in an obscure country that you think that we won't get it, we will, I promise. Maybe a little delayed, but if you guys want to find the show, you can go over to velenschosen.com/links, and you can find all the links to our Twitter, our Patreon, our Discord server. You can come hang out with Nikolaius and tell him that he needs to have Sea Giants in every single deck that he plays, or whatever you want to do. We can
Sea Giant for life.
yeah, we can all geek out about Blood Knights together. Whatever you'd like to do, you can hang out in our Discord server at discord.me/Velen's Chosen. And we also have all of the other stuff there. That's it for us. Nikolaius, where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to harass you or thank you for your deck list?
Please don't harass me, but I'm on Twitter at Nikolaius123.
Okay.
I'm also on the Velen's Chosen and Coin Can See Discords at Nikolaius. So if you want to talk to me there, yeah.
And do you stream at all?
I don't stream.
Okay.
The way that I play is not very conducive to streaming, so I just don't. I tend to do like 1 or 2 games, and then I'll sign off. I'll come back and do another 2 games, and then I'll leave again. So I don't tend to do like the whole like long 4-hour session. So
yeah, order a pizza and play Hearthstone for like 6 hours. Yeah, it's not really conducive, right?
No.
All right, Grant, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, head on over to Twitter at WatchmanHS. Friend me in game at Watchman #1140. But if you really want to find me, go over our Discord and you can find links on our webpage at velenschosen.com.
If you want to find me on the interwebs, I'm at not Rob on Twitter and Instagram. We got some new stuff going on here in Japan with all the cycles. We got like 16 new ALTs, I guess, this year. So we've been trying to teach some of the newbies. I got a lot of new neighbors. I got a friend that's been helping me with some things, and we have our D&D projects going up. Carrie and I are actually going to go up on Concept Craft this week, talking about filling in all the gaps from the previous time that we started talking about D&D and kind of filling in what we've been doing and how our characters are developing. If you want to find my Overwatch podcast, you like Overwatch, you can head over to omniclab.com. And if you want to check out that 8 p.m. thing, that's on Velen's Chosen podcast, Twitch. So twitch.tv/Velen's Chosen podcast. You can see that 8 p.m. breakdown. And I'm sure Grant's gonna watch it and show me how I'm wrong, because it's kind of me figuring things out as I'm going and then kind of explaining it after that. So we'll see.
Probably not, but that deck scares me. It's like, do I want to spend my time learning that? I don't know.
Yeah. And then if you want to find Eve, which you should, you can go over to her Twitter at twitter.com/loremastereve. And if you want to add her in-game, it's Loremaster without the E at the end, and then EVE, #1974. That's going to do it for episode 151. Nikolaius, you've been wonderful. Thanks for helping us break down all these decks, man. It's been great having you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
I'm sure we'll have you back. Hopefully when we get another Zoo deck, probably next week. I'm sure it'll probably happen. And Grant, do you want to announce who our guest will be next week?
Well, some of you guys might be familiar with the streamer known as Slissa. It's got 3 S's. She's a Fade to Karma streamer. I just seem to know these Fade to Karma streamers because I know a couple of them actually. And I was on her stream the other day because, I played her in game and I friend requested her and she let me on her friends list. Okay. And
so she's cool now.
So she's cool. And so I was on her stream and I was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Because that's how I do it. That's how I got Mac and C's on our show. Same thing. Just kind of lurking on their streams. And she said, yeah, I've never been on a podcast before. What would I talk about? I was like, don't worry about that. We got you covered. She said, sure. So I'm going to see if I can get her next week. But
Sweet.
She said she'd do it. So hopefully we'll get her on.
Awesome. And then also, side note, congrats to Dane Harth for actually getting signed on to be a streamer for Fade to Karma for Wild. I just found out the news this week, so congrats to him. He's a big creator that honestly deserves to be a part of a team because he's incredible. And a very, very good wild player. But we'll see you guys next week, and hopefully we have some new lore for you. That's it for the live stream. I'll probably just put everything in the end. But bye, guys, and remember, not all who launder are washed. We'll see you guys next week.